Hello, friends, and welcome to the Oracle reading. I hope that you are finding yourself enjoying in one way or another this holiday season and maybe taking some time for slowing down and reflecting. Sometimes we can get so busy with the holidays. I know this year's just different, but still, I know it's very cliche, but finding the reason for the season, and that's really the most important thing. So finding appreciation, finding that connection to joy and spirit and love and all of that mushy stuff. It's important, it's necessary. And so now we're entering into a transition phase from one year to the next. And, we hear it all over the place. People are looking forward to it, ready to start 2020. And so, not neglecting the fact that there are still some things that we can be grateful for 2020 for bringing to light and bringing to surface. There was some good in it, I'm sure, somewhere. And so finding or just making intentional time to think about that. And then what do you want to bring for this next year? I'm big into, I love doing vision boards and that sort of thing. And it's just because the intention, we can go, I know I talk about this a lot, and this is why I do the Oracle reading, because it's so easy to just jump into life and to just go and jump from one thing to the next. And we lose our purpose and meaning so easily doing that because we're just so distracted. So many different things pull for our attention. And then we can come into this very fight or flight way of reacting to the world instead of being in the driver's seat. And so the more that we can create these moments of pause and reflection to really see, is what's taking place in your life aligning with what you really want to get out of life? And if we don't stop and do that from time to time, then we're going to get to a point, we're going to look back and we're going to realize that this is not the life we want to live. And so the more we can build this into our life, the just easier it is to course correct. And so that's why we're doing these Oracle readings. And now it's just a bigger form of doing that with the transition from one year to the next. So anyway, we will jump into this week's Oracle. I pulled from the Mystical Shaman Oracle deck. And this week I pulled the card, the Beloved. So this card is all about recognizing spirit in others and then using other people to move towards spirit through them. And it's, there's so many different ways to look at this. A lot of times we don't really feel love or the depth of love until we recognize our feelings placed upon another person or maybe an animal. And so it might be when you have a child or when you think about your child or maybe a partner or a friend. And then it's those things that actually have us feeling that experience of being in love and being in the frequency of love. And I'm sure that we can all think of a time when we really felt in love and how magical that time period was. You see it in the movies, you see it, and maybe you've seen it in your own life or other people's lives, where it's just people just glow because they have the glow of a new mom, the glow of a bride, the glow of this guy who just fell in love, the glow of people who finally met friends who resonate at their level. And so it just amplifies the experience. And that's basically connecting with spirit. It's connecting with the divine, and it's in all of us, but sometimes it's using another in order to really tap in and experience it. And the more that we do that, and the more that we can recognize that that's what's taking place, then we can begin to understand the beloved, the divine in everyone. And we don't confuse it with our personalities, our conditioning, our stories that can often separate us from our true self or the divine. And so we can see not only in other people, but then we might be able to recognize it, most importantly, in ourselves. Because sometimes it's a lot easier to send love or have love for others, but we are kind of told that that's a narcissistic thing to do, to have that for ourselves. And really the way to have pure love for other people is to have it first for ourselves. Otherwise, then it can become dysfunctional because you might expect people to perform a certain way in order to meet some needs that we have internally. But we'll get to that. Also, the more that we can be in love, the more that we can recognize it, not just in other people, not just in ourselves, but in the world around us, where we can look at the beauty of a sunrise, a sunset, nature, experiences, and truly feel it. Just stop and intentionally feel the divine, the sacredness, the holiness, and all that's around us, because it's there. It truly is. We just, like I said earlier, we just get too pulled away from it. We're too distracted. We become desensitized to really like the beauty that's there. And so when we can see that and we can feel it and we embody it, then it's like we can't, the ability to do harm becomes harder, because like we're going to want to treat the earth as sacred. We're going to treat each other as sacred. That does not mean that we don't hold ourselves and other people accountable. It just means that we do so in a loving way that's for the betterment of the whole and coming from. All right, so dun dun dun, the card was pulled upside down. So that means that there's a medicine, like something's out of whack, a little bit out of balance with us. And so we need to recognize that and reflect on what that might be. And when the beloved is pulled upside down, it's kind of like a little like, okay, be careful. And it's more focusing on like romantic love, and where that might be in our lives. So it could be like an infatuation that we might have, and more of that love that we fall into and fall out of. And what's important for us to recognize is how our own projections will get in the way, because we will place them and put them on that object of our affection. And so when we do that, then we're not allowing the true selves, the true person to come out. It's more, it's the rose-colored glasses, or we see what we want to see in another person. And you hear this a lot, but we become a mirror or an attractor to whatever it is, whatever stage we're at. So that frequency. So if you're in a stage where you're not feeling whole within, and maybe you don't feel good enough, or maybe you have a fear of intimacy or something, then we tend to attract these partners who will reinforce that belief. And so if we're not truly observant and neutral minded, connected to what's really going on and what projections we might be placing on a relationship or on other people, then we're setting ourselves up to be hurt and to feel some pretty strong emotions, and to likely reinforce our self-fulfilling prophecy. And that's our brain doing this, and it's our way of, it's called confirmation bias, because our brain wants to have a meaningful interaction with the world. And so if our meaning is, or our story is that I'm unlovable, or I'm not good enough, blah, 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 then that's what you will see in a partner, whether it's really there or not. You might attract a partner who doesn't treat you respectfully, or isn't really ready for a deep relationship, or maybe they are, but you're just projecting that they're not, or you're manipulating unconsciously, subconsciously the situation to push them away. And so we have to be aware of where we're coming from and our projections. And if we're not, then we have to be prepared to feel that emotionally when the things kind of come to the surface that hurt, and heartbreak hurts, right? And so really the important thing to remember is that we do have to find true love for ourselves, and to recognize our own divine nature, and know like the difference between our own conditioning, our own stories, our own ego and personalities that can get away, and how that is different than our true selves. So we might have these patterns that we don't like, but we can still like ourselves and work on the patterns out of love, not out of like we're this broken mess that needs to be fixed. That's not the case. We're all human. We have these human minds and these human experiences that we get to use these challenges as opportunities for growth. And so to tapping into that self-acceptance and self-love, the divine within, is going to be what then allows us to put that vibration out there into the world to then attract someone or an experience, people who are your tribe, who are aligned with that, who have done their own work of separating their personality, their conditioning from their true self, and who they also recognize the divinity within themselves and with other people. And then that's where, when we can do that, like the whole essence of this card of just like living in love, being, not finding, not seeking, and not doing, like striving for love, just being in it, just being in it's all around us already, but we have to accept that within us before we can truly connect with it in the world around us. And so, I mean, 'tis the season, right? We have so many different opportunities to experience being in love right now. We just have to be open and willing to see them. So there you have it for this week, the beloved. All right, sending love to you.